Welcome to the JR Talks Hoops podcast, hosted by Johnny Rodgers III.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to episode 2 of the JR Talks Hoops podcast, hosted by myself, Johnny Rodgers III. My co-host is unavailable today. She's here, but no longer on the air. She felt her role as a producer would be more beneficial to the show, and I agree. So Leah has retired from the airwaves, but she is still with us in spirit, and we do love her. So in this episode, I just wanted to, wrap up the offseason, talk about everything that's happened, and get you guys ready for the new NBA season that's going on starting December 22nd, 5 days hence from the recording of this episode, which is December 17th, live from the studio. And in this episode, first off, I just wanted to say this has been the shortest offseason in NBA history, and some of the players will have a lot of time off if they didn't go to the bubble. Some of the players will have minimal time off if they played deep in the playoffs, and every player in the bubble will have pretty much a shorter time than they normally would. And I think it's going to lead to some injuries and possibly just like a sluggish start to the season because players are not, ready to turn it quite on yet. They haven't had that full off-season cycle to rest and recover their body. So there will be competitive basketball being played, but I just feel like the players may be a little more vulnerable than usual, and the quality of play may suffer a bit as a result, especially with the rookies who have had very, very little time to get acclimated to their teams as opposed to a regular offseason cycle. And I think they will just be a little bit behind the curve, even more than normal. But I think, once again, we will still see competitive basketball. It'll just be kind of a get the ball rolling process as opposed to a roaring start, in my opinion. But only time will tell. So we will just wait and see how this season goes. So the first thing I want to talk about is the 2020 NBA draft, which was not uneventful. There were many trades made, but most of them involved players that were already in the league going to other teams and getting exchanged for draft picks as opposed to just marquee picks getting traded. The Jrue Holiday trade was the biggest of all of them, and I will discuss it first because it is pretty much the reason Giannis is still on the Bucks and that he just recently signed a Supermax. A whopping 5 years and $228 million to stay in Milwaukee for the long haul. When everyone was saying the 2021 free agency class was going to be very, very large, it's shrinking rapidly. And Giannis was definitely the biggest domino to fall so far. It looks like there will be no Giannis sweepstakes in 2021 after all. And it was no small cost for the Bucks to prevent the Giannis sweepstakes. Jrue Holiday they acquired, but they lost Bledsoe and roughly 4 draft picks possibly, 2 definite picks and 2 pick swaps. So, if they have a good pick in the future, it won't matter because it'll be gone. And I don't think it was a bad decision. I think it was a great decision. If you're having a franchise player and they're getting to a point where they don't feel like the franchise is doing everything it can to get them a championship, then they're well within their bounds to leave. And as we've seen recently, players are willing to do it and seizing the opportunity to do it. So when you go above and beyond to try and get another marquee player to put alongside your star and push y'all over the hump, when y'all are so close to reaching that precipice of the finals, in Giannis' case, since he has been in the second round 2 years in a row and just had disappointing finishes, not due to a lack of talent on his end. He's put up good numbers in those series, contrary to what the media would have you believe about him choking and what have you. But it's really just there wasn't enough around him to get it done in that type of environment. And I think bringing in somebody that has a higher pedigree than Bledsoe, I will say definitively here, Jrue Holiday is better than Eric Bledsoe. Shocker, I know. And it's those things you have to do to win a championship. You have to make sacrifices. The future sometimes has to be put on the back burner for the present. You have to try and win now, even if later down the line you're in a worse position, because you'll look back on it and say it was worth it. Whereas you could look back and regret it for not having done it in the first place. So I commend the Bucks for doing this. It was definitely a risky gamble, but one well worth taking. Moving on from the Bucks, I just wanted to talk about the draft as a whole. It was not underwhelming to say, but there were many moves that were made that led me to believe there were not a lot of players that teams actually wanted to commit to available, and rather players that teams felt were great assets to move and get the players they actually wanted available. And so it seemed like teams just picked what either the team they were trading for wanted or whoever they wanted, and we'll just try and see what they get. But I don't think there were any super marquee players available and they got snubbed and dropped really far. I don't think any of the players that were picked later were worse than the players that were picked earlier. And I feel like all the players overall were not, anything special for this draft year compared to other years, but I don't think most of them are busts. I think all of them will be productive players. I just think it was like an average draft, not a poor draft, as many would say, but it wasn't just not a spectacular draft. So, there's a few players I think will make an impact immediately. Halliburton comes to mind from Iowa State, but for the most part, it seemed like a lot of the players still needed a lot of developing and were project players as opposed to plug and play players that are ready to go on day one. The rookies this year are really going to be up against it, regardless of how good they are, just because of the nature of the draft being 1 month before the season begins, and the fact that they will have had less than a month to train with their teams and get familiar with the personnel, the schemes, the matchups, and all that they will be facing right when they just go into real games on December 22nd. So I think we might see horrible rookie play, but I don't think it will be because the rookies are that much worse than any other year. I just think it will be due to the nature of the shortened offseason and them not having time to properly prepare for what is a grueling NBA season in any year, let alone a year when you had 1 month to prepare for it. One of the teams that's going to be up against it the most is the Lakers, who were in the finals and therefore played the most recently of all the teams available, I guess, other than the Heat. And they made a lot of moves in the offseason. They are definitely trying to go back-to-back, and they're not hiding it. They're not resting on their laurels at all and trying to just run it back with the same roster and just, rely on their talent and say, we're better than y'all, how we are, and we can just cruise like that. They went out, they got Wesley Matthews, they got Dennis Schroeder, they got Marc Gasol, Defensive Player of the Year, nothing huge. And they got Montrezl Harrell, reigning 6th Man of the Year, and Dennis Schroeder was second place for 6th Man of the Year, by the way. So it's just, you can see the writing on the wall. LeBron's window is short, he's old, and at some point he will fall off. It's not yet, obviously, but they're not hedging on, we can just ride him for however long it takes. We're trying to win championships every year now until the end of his career. And with Anthony Davis coming in, that's very much possible. They have 2 of the top 5 players in the league. They reloaded around them with role players that can help their system even more, and their defense looked really great in their first preseason game. And I know it's a preseason game, so you're going to be like, it's preseason, it doesn't matter, it doesn't count, nobody's playing hard. But that's my point. They were playing intense defense and generating many steals and pushing in transition in a preseason game. So if that's their tempo for warming up, once the games matter, it shows me they're coming out with a lot of intensity and are trying to be in the upper echelon of defensive teams once again in the league. Given that they were 4th overall in points per game allowed last season, which just shows they were not letting teams run up the score on them no matter what. And it carried over into the playoffs, as we saw late in the finals. Their defense was what got them going when their offensive players were kind of lacking. And when I say lacking, I mean having an off game. But the defense carried them out of it, and it translated into more offensive production once the players got going again. And it was just something that can bridge the gap when every shot is not falling and everything's not going your way. It's that thing you can just always fall back on. We have intense defense. We can keep the other team from scoring. So even if we're not making shots, they're not going to get that far ahead of us, if ahead of us at all. That sort of intense defense is going to demoralize the other team over time. It's going to be late in the 4th, and the other team is going to be like, wow, they're still playing so hard. I know everyone's supposed to play hard, and everyone does play hard in the NBA. But it's just all that energy you're giving on defense, it shows after a while. It makes a difference because when players are tired, they make mistakes. And when you're playing intense defense, you can punish those mistakes. Whereas if you're lax and tired as well and just letting off, you won't be able to punish those mistakes. And they may be the difference in a game. The Lakers were the only team making moves in the offseason, though. Their arch rival, the Clippers, got Serge Ibaka, and Paul George signed a 4-year max extension. So they're also setting up for a championship window, as I like to call it, wherein whatever happens after, it doesn't matter. We're here now. We have a strong team. We can beat everyone, and we need to try and get a ring while we have the talent. Because they have Kawhi for this year, and they have Paul George locked up now. So Kawhi is in the balance. If this season does not go properly, he could very well just be out of there. I don't think he'll leave. He wants to play in LA, but who's to say he won't? And a 1-year deal is no sure thing in the NBA. As we have seen time and time again, players will say at the beginning of a season, they're there for the long haul. They want to stay. But careful with the wording. They always say, I want to stay here, not I will stay here. And that is the thing that the Clippers are up against right now. With a new head coach who has championship pedigree, Tyronn Lue did help LeBron get a finals appearance and ring. in the absence of David Blatt after LeBron got him fired. But I don't know that the Clippers have what it takes to beat the Lakers in their present state unless they play perfectly. The Lakers can make quite a few mistakes and still beat them. But that does not mean they are impervious to losing to the Clippers. I just think the Clippers have an uphill battle to fight, and I'm curious to see how it will unfold in this season in the wake of their playoff collapse last year against the Nuggets that was just shocking to everyone in basketball anywhere. I don't know anyone that really gave the Nuggets a chance at the beginning of that series to beat them. And once they were down 3-1, I really don't know anyone who gave them a chance to come back again from down 3-1 after they had done in the previous round. So hats off to the Nuggets. They played very well. Jamal Murray has blossomed into a full-blown superstar. We'll see if he can carry it over into the regular season. But I think the Clippers really have a lot of soul-searching to do if they really want to get a ring, because I think their biggest enemy is themselves. I don't think they are incapable of winning a championship. But I think if their players don't play together and know who's who and what your role is and just play your role and everyone doesn't try and do their own thing or be a hero or play out of the system, then I think they have a chance. But a big problem last year was that players were not happy with the roles that they were assigned on the team, given that two superstars came in immediately and were the big shots and everyone else just kind of got swept under the rug to the back burner, or what have you, whatever metaphor you'd like to use. Obviously, Montrezl Harrell was Sixth Man of the Year, so he did get recognition, but Paul George and Kawhi were getting VIP treatment, and the other players were not. And every other player there had pretty much been there before Paul George and Kawhi, so I could see how it'd be grating for two players that are obviously better than everyone that was on the roster to come in and then get treated better than everyone on the roster, even if they deserve it. So reconciling those feelings, and just playing as a team and getting over it and just being cohesive, that is going to be the biggest problem for the Clippers. And that is why I think they're their own biggest enemy. And I don't think another team is really their biggest enemy, save the Lakers, possibly, if in the Western Conference Finals they match up.
Okay.
Another team that has championship aspirations is the Brooklyn Nets. Even though they're in the East, I think they're one of the most likely teams to make the finals. I put them up there with the Bucks and possibly the Heat again, in terms of finals appearance likelihood, just given the nature of their roster and also the fact that they have two of, at the top of their game, possibly top 10 players in the NBA, in Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant. So if Kyrie and Durant can play like they did when they were healthy before they got injured, they will be one of the top teams in the East. It is just a matter of if they perform up to their potential, which I believe they will, since they came there to be together, and it leads me to believe that their chemistry together is going to be very strong and will prevent any sort of the type of chemistry issues Kyrie had with previous teammates, since now he feels that he has a teammate that he can rely on, which he said in an interview that when he was on any other team, he didn't feel like anyone but him was capable of hitting the last shot at the buzzer at any point in his career, and now he feels like he has a guy like that in Kevin Durant. I believe he made these remarks on the All the Smoke podcast, but it just goes to show, and LeBron came out and rebutted it and said it hurt his feelings when he heard that Kyrie didn't feel like he was capable of hitting game-winning shots at the end, since they literally won a championship together. And so it just shows like Kyrie has always wanted to be on a team with someone he felt was equal to him, but not better. When LeBron was on the team, Kyrie was the second fiddle. When KD's on the team, rather, it seems like it's going to be more of a partnership as opposed to a 1-2. It's going to be like 1A, 1B. And I think Kyrie was looking for that for a long time. And when he went to the Celtics, he thought he was going to be 1 of 1. And then Tatum started to kind of steal his shine a little bit and, not really outplay him, but rather become the franchise face that he wanted to be. Or at least compete with him for that title directly, so it wasn't definitive. I think now it's definitively Kyrie's team and KD's team. And he's okay with that, since he feels that the person opposite him is of equal stature. I don't know how he felt that people above him weren't like of equal stature. Like maybe he just felt that the recognition he got on the Cavaliers was not big enough, since LeBron outshined him so brightly. But I think now that he's able to shine equally bright to his co-star, he will be happier and therefore not have the chemistry issues and bitterness that we've seen in other locker rooms. And that's also been in the news for a trade that may or may not happen, but I don't see it happening given the construction of their roster and what they would have to sacrifice to get it. James Harden is unhappy in Houston and wants out, and he has listed his two preferred destinations as Brooklyn and Philadelphia. Philadelphia, I read today, is willing to trade Ben Simmons, but no deal is close, so it would be Ben Simmons and probably a lot of assets, I'm assuming, to even like get near Harden's value. And so I don't know if the Sixers are willing to part with that much talent just to get one player, even though that one player is head and shoulders above Ben Simmons in terms of output and production. Obviously, at this point of their career, Ben Simmons is much younger, so he has way more room for down the line potential. But it seems that the Sixers, if they make this move, are definitely going to a win right now mode as opposed to a trying to win now mode that they are currently in. And it looks like the Rockets would be in full rebuild if they blow it up and get rid of Harden. They did get John Wall and Boogie in the offseason, and if they can stay healthy, that would be a good compliment, like to bridge the gap from their championship aspirations to their rebuilding phase. But let's be honest, it would be a downgrade. Like, if they lose Harden, that is a huge downgrade. They are getting much worse if they do that. And so Houston hopes to keep him, but Harden has stated to them, according to media reports, that he is unhappy and would like to leave. So it is going to be a curious beginning to the season as we see if a deal materializes or if Harden refuses to play once the season starts, or maybe he'll play and just wait for the deal. But it's anyone's guess at this point, but he is unhappy and he wants to leave. So it remains to be seen if that will materialize and where he will go. Another Western Conference powerhouse, the Golden State Warriors, has been in the news for Klay Thompson tearing his Achilles after rehabbing his ACL during the entirety of last season, so he will be out for the entirety of this season as well. And the next time we see him, it will be over 2 years since he's played an NBA game, which the last time was the 2019 finals, for reference. And it's just sad to see, really, because he's such a good player, and you can tell he puts in the work and grinds really hard to get to the point in the career where he's at, where he is All-NBA and All-NBA defense. He is one of the top 2 shooting guards in the league, in my opinion. And just to see a guy like that go down again after coming back so far from the ACL in the finals, it just hurts, you know? It hurts as a fan of basketball. We're going to see worse basketball as a result of this directly. And so I pray a speedy recovery for Klay, and hopefully Curry can at least help them get a playoff berth this year, but I feel like their chances of playoff success this year have been greatly diminished due to the loss of their second best player, and the league is worse off for it, in my opinion. Another key player that's been injured was Kristaps Porzingis, who's recovering from an off-season meniscus tear. Well, he tore it in the playoffs, rather, against the Clippers, but he has been recovering during the offseason and will be out until at least January 1st, according to reports I've read. Him and Luka looked very good in the playoffs, and if he can get healthy in time for them to make a run again this year, I think they have a real chance to make some noise, at least to the second round. Obviously, once you get in the second round, it's anybody's game who's going to make the conference finals, but I think they're getting to that point where they are going to be dangerous in the playoffs, and they may shock some teams that underestimate them coming in because they're so young. But Luka plays like a 7 to 8 year veteran, and Porzingis is not far behind. So with Luka leading the charge, I mean, it's anybody's guess as to how well the Mavericks could do, but I definitely see them making the playoffs, and the second round would not surprise me. The conference finals would surprise me, and the finals would be a major shock, but I think they have the groundwork laid for a lot of future playoff success. Only contingent on if they can stay healthy. And Luka doesn't seem to have injury problems so far, but Porzingis has shown that he is quite injury prone, and it worries me considerably, given the nature of the season and how grindy it is, and how if you're deep in the playoffs, you're going to have more wear and tear than you normally would. I wish the Mavericks the best during the season, though, and I would never wish injuries upon anybody. I hope Porzingis stays healthy so we can see his full potential. Now, speaking of the season, opening night is December 22nd, and we get to see an exciting matchup. It's the Golden State Warriors versus the Nets, and the Clippers versus the Lakers. I, myself, have the Nets winning, given that Klay Thompson is out. I think everyone else does as well, but I expect Curry to put up at least 30 to 35 points. The Clippers-Lakers game is more of a toss-up for me. On the one hand, they are the defending champions, but on the other, when they played last year, every time the Lakers and Clippers played, it was pretty much a death match. So I can't really, in good faith, say the Lakers are just going to destroy the Clippers, or vice versa. I think the Lakers will win, since they have retooled, and I feel like their lineup is stronger, but if the Clippers win, it wouldn't surprise me. But I got the Lakers by, I'm thinking probably 104, 101, 104, 99, somewhere in there. And that is my official prediction for opening night with the Lakers and the Clippers. The Warriors and the Nets, I feel like that one's not going to be close. I got the Nets 112 to 87, maybe 92. Warriors just don't have enough firepower in my eyes, honestly. And now for the Christmas games, I think the Heat are going to beat the Pelicans definitively just because they're better. The Bucks are going to stomp the Warriors, which, I mean, once again, it's just a mismatch. The Nets and the Celtics will be a good one. I think the Celtics are going to win, but narrowly, just because I think they're a better defensive team than the Nets, and they have a lot of offensive firepower to match what the Nets have on offense. The Mavericks and the Lakers was a great matchup last year. Most people don't remember it, but Luka had a triple-double, and the Lakers won, but LeBron and the Lakers did have to fight for it. The Mavericks forced overtime. Like, it was a very close game. The Lakers could have lost. So I think this game will be more exciting than people might think. And lastly, on Christmas at 10:30, the nightcap, we have the Clippers and the Nuggets. And I think that's going to be a war, just given the nature of it's a rematch of the second round, and the Nuggets did embarrass the Clippers on national TV last year. So the Clippers will definitely have a chip on their shoulder and an axe to grind, and they're going to show up hungry, I believe. But that will do it for this episode of the podcast. I just wanted to wrap up the offseason and get you guys ready for the new season. And I'm excited to see it. I hope you guys are excited to see it. I'm ready for some NBA basketball. And with that, I will leave you. So thanks for listening, and until next time, as always, stay dangerous.